Okay, so this is a cheap and cheerful worm bin that I've been using. It's a recycling bin from the council, which I got for nothing. After a time they become damaged and they get replaced, and the council give them away, so it's worth checking out with your council if they do such a scheme. As you can see, it's absolutely teeming with worms. These were cocoons which I sifted out from a previous pile of finished vermicompost, and I left them, just the cocoons, paper, cardboard and some vegetable scraps in here over winter and early spring. The problem with this type of bin is it gets very wet, because I didn't really do anything to correct the drainage. I just sort of left it as it is, just for convenience. But as you can see, the worms haven't had a problem with it. It's absolutely teeming with worms everywhere you look. There's no offensive odours, so it's quite a well balanced bin. It managed to stay well balanced, unlike the second bin, which I'll show you very soon. They've all hatched, all the cocoons have hatched. There's very little scrap or paper left, and what I'm going to do is harvest this now and start a new worm pit with these worms. So I've dug out a 7-foot by 3-foot pit that will get filled with cardboard from the local shop and vegetable scraps from a local nursing home. And these guys will get to work and reproduce over the summer and turn all of that into lovely vermicompost by October, November. You can see they haven't had a problem with this bin, because normally you would expect to find trails of castings along the edging if the worms were trying to escape, and there's not an awful lot of evidence of much of that type of activity from this bin, which is good. Most of these are not quite adult yet. There's a guy, he's got a saddle, so that's an adult. You can see the saddle just here, and with him it's a little juvie. Not quite hit the world of adulthood yet. But as you can see, everywhere I turn, there's just worms, 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 which is excellent. So this is going to be harvested now. It's quite wet, like I said, which is the only real issue. And the way I'm going to harvest this one is I'm simply going to move all the worms to one side and I'm just going to feed from here. So what I'll do, see lots of lovely worms, all very happy. This spot here, I'm just going to feed here. What the worms will do is they will migrate, because there isn't an awful lot left for them to eat in this bin. They will migrate over to here, and I'll remove all of this, and it will make it quite easy then. What's left will be mostly worms and whatever food they're working on, and I'll just take that as it is and chuck it into the pit. Right, let's have a look at the second bin. Okay, again the same type of bin. This is the second bin. Again the worms seem quite happy because there isn't an awful lot of evidence of them trying to escape, leaving trails of castings on the sides. But this bin is not in as good a shape as the first bin. It's very wet. It got far too wet. What you see is the paper and egg cartons I've been adding to it to try and dry it out a little bit. And this bin doesn't have so many worms. Although this isn't smell-o-vision, you can take my word for it, there's quite a bit of a strong smell to the bin. It got too wet and it's too acidic. Let's see if we can find any worms. Here they are. They're hiding down here. Okay. Here we go. They found themselves a little corner. Again, mostly juveniles. These were hatched from the same lot of cocoons that I sifted out with that vermicompost. And I don't know if you can zoom in here. There we go. You can see. Let's see if I can do this. Potworms. So they're a good sign that your bin has gone acidic, because they like a more acidic environment, these little guys. Don't know if that's focused. Can you see them? There we go. So we got lots of potworms in here, and of course they're going to like this bin because they like the bins to be more acidic. So there you go. Your bin will talk to you. If you look at what's going on in your bin, it will give you lots of clues to the condition of the bin. Let's see what we have here. There we go. And we got some springtails. They're good. And more potworms. There. I like little springtails. But as you can see, not such a vibrant worm population. And it does have quite a strong odour to it. Now again, I just left these bins really. I didn't do anything to them. I simply set them up, put the cocoons into moist cardboard and paper, lots of it, some leaves, and I fed occasionally. That was it. So they've done a reasonable job of converting it all into vermicompost. This is just paper I've been adding. There's some more guys. So they've sort of migrated from where the areas were wetter to where it's not as moist. And there we have another little potworm. They've found the cardboard and the dried cardboard and paper that I added as bedding to dry out the bed, but it's also food for these guys. So see, everywhere I look, potworms. So that's a really good clue that there's there we go. The bin is off. However, these guys are going into the pit as well, so I'm going to harvest these guys in the same way. As I explained about the first bin, I'm just simply going to, because an easier way to do it is actually dump the whole thing out onto sheeting on a bright sunny day and keep removing layers from the top as the worms will make their way down to the bottom, and then you're just left with a pile of worms at the bottom and all your vermicompost sifted off. Or you could use a garden sieve, which, because this is too wet, all that would happen is as you sift, you end up with balls like this. That's what you'll see in the tray, which when you then break open, you'll find lots of worms. So you won't actually sift out that many of your worms when your compost, your vermicompost is too wet like this. So I'm just going to feed this corner here. These guys will migrate in their own sweet time, and I will be left with mostly just the 2 wet castings and vermicompost here, and most of the worms over here. I'll then just scoop that out and chuck it in the pit. That's it. Okay, bye.